So the first thing is this Mueller report. As you know, it's been released, and all we've got is this skimpy 4-page summary of a 2-year investigation. I'm looking for a little bit more than that. I think a lot of people are. But the Trump-appointed Attorney General William Barr has decided that the evidence developed during the Special Investigation's 2-year inquiry isn't sufficient to establish that Trump committed an obstruction of justice offense. That's really interesting because there's not enough. I realize that, no pun intended, that the bar is extremely high to show intent on this, but there is a lot of information that we still need to get out to the public about this, and we're looking for that. So in reality, pushing this thing through the court system probably isn't worth the time because of that little proving intent aspect of the obstruction of justice. But the collusion part of the summary, to say that there was no collusion, to me is extremely premature here, given that Roger Stone, that would be, to me, by saying that there is no collusion, that would be prematurely basically concluding that Roger Stone is not guilty of colluding with WikiLeaks, which I've argued WikiLeaks is essentially a Russian-controlled organization. At a minimum, WikiLeaks, I think, highly collaborates with Russian intelligence agencies. So if you're willing to say that there is no collusion, then you're just not even paying attention to that court case that's coming up in November with Roger Stone. You're just willing to say automatically that he's not guilty of colluding with WikiLeaks. I'm not ready nor prepared to say that myself. So I think it's extremely premature to say that there is no collusion. Mueller has already charged Roger Stone with charges including lying to lawmakers about his interactions with WikiLeaks before WikiLeaks released Democratic National Committee emails stolen by Russian hackers to embarrass Hillary Clinton. My point here is this, folks, that prosecutors know that Roger Stone lied about his contact with WikiLeaks. Then that means to me that they also know that he had contact with WikiLeaks, right? So it's just a matter of how much contact did Stone have with WikiLeaks. And Mueller's prosecutors say that Stone was directed by members of Trump's campaign to contact WikiLeaks as it was releasing the hacked emails. And remember that Michael Cohen, in congressional testimony, also said that he overheard a Trump phone call in which Stone gave Trump advance word that WikiLeaks would soon release hacked Democratic emails. So no, until this case is done with Roger Stone, and it just starts this fall in November, until that is done, none of us should be willing to believe the Attorney General's assessment or anyone's assessment that there was no collusion. To me, when I hear that Donald Trump Jr. had some dialogue with WikiLeaks that he even admitted, is it a stretch to imagine that most of the dialogue with WikiLeaks would have been pushed down to a more or less notable, visible person in the campaign like Roger Stone, rather than with Don Jr. directly? I wouldn't have, if I was Don Jr., I wouldn't have said a lot with WikiLeaks. He would have been stupid to. In any event, the reason Roger Stone tried to push the trial date to November, folks, is largely because of the amount of evidence that Roger Stone's legal team has to piece through. Evidently, prosecution lawyers have turned over 9 terabytes of data to Stone's defense team. 9 terabytes. Which, in reply, Roger Stone's attorney, Robert Bushell, exclaimed that he said this, and I quote him, "We could pile it as high as the Washington Monument twice." That's the amount of information that they have to go through. So, given all of that data, folks, that monumental amount of data that they've collected on Roger Stone, I don't think anybody should be willing to rush to judgment by saying there was no collusion yet with Russia on behalf of Donald Trump's campaign.